back to his village and found out his whole village had been taken. He was from like Pujum. He was a Mende man. And his real name was Singbe Pierre, right? So when Singbe Pierre came back, the white abolitionists, the white people who were Christians, they brought them back and they established what they called a Mende mission, M-E-N-D-I mission. That Mende mission was sponsored by the American missionary societies. So it was the white American abolitionists and missionaries who was behind the Mende mission in southern Sierra Leone that established some of the first schools and missions in the villages and chiefdoms of the South. In the North, it was the British. And there was a difference between British education and American education, between British Christianity and American Christianity, between a British missionary and an American missionary. So the people who they was teaching was who? The Timni and the Mendes. They got different educations. That's the basis for their different approach in leadership and the values they have in governance. And that's where you see the difference in their ideology. They're basically the same people, trained by two different Europeans. They came, they converted people to Christianity, then they built a school, start teaching their educational system in Africa. Later, the Africans who went under the two different educational systems is going to have differences of views and values because the British values and the American values are not identical. We're going to be fighting over this colonial education that's still inside of us. That's what's happening here.
Wow.
When they first so-called gave us independence in 1961 here, do you know the Queen Elizabeth was still the head of state? So how are you independent with the Queen Elizabeth as your head of state?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
So what happened was Sir Milton Mackay, the first head of state, the first prime minister, he wasn't a president. He wasn't. He was a prime minister. He wasn't a president. The first president is Pa Shaki. So he's the first president in Ceylon. Before that, they were prime ministers. And it was back during the 60s that all these splits took place. You know the APC grew out of the SLPP. The SLPP used to be the only party. It was the only party in the country. And then other parties started splitting off.
Doing some geo shit.
Well, it's colonial. The colonial system had it geo like that. So the tribalism, what we call tribalism here, is really miseducation, colonial education, and the effects of it still involved in our political ideological struggles. We're fighting over something we don't even understand the origins of. APC, if you ask anybody in SLPP why they don't like APC, they can't tell you. Just like Bloods and Crips. Just like Democrats and Republicans. They can't tell you. Their mama was that. Me not APC picking. Me not SLPP picking. How? How does that happen? So there is a political explanation for why the politics are the way they are. We don't need propaganda and people, well, they said and he said, and that's what they believe. All that shit mostly be rubbish because as the political sides fight, they have to create propaganda that destroys the image and the reputation and everything of the op. They're gangbanging. So ain't no blood gonna say nothing good about no Crip, bro.
Nah.
And so we get caught up in the propaganda between the two sides fighting and choose a side based on our ethnicity. Well, I'm a Timmy, I got a place in my heart for the APC. I got a certain place in my heart for them because, my granddaddy, he's the original member. I hear it all the time. The APC picking, SLPP picking. Whatever way their family went first, that's how they go. So that's not politics, brother. That's not how you build a nation. That's not what you're supposed to do with political parties. This is why we say we want to build a Pan-African political party here, because everybody is related here. The tribalism was created through colonial miseducation, and they never passed the reins of power over to a democratic group of Africans. They passed it over to people that they trained, who they knew would rule like dictators, because they trained them. They passed the reins of power to the dictators that they trained. And that's what has been happening. So the masses of people are suffering without even knowing why. And when you understand the bigger picture, you can't blame one party more than another party. Now you can evaluate their performance, understanding that colonialism still exists in Sierra Leone. It's called neo-colonialism. That you have political parties that's functioning under still being controlled and dominated by foreign Western company interests. The corporate interest still dominates what the politics is in the country. The foreign interest in the country dictates how we treat each other in the country. They was fighting just now over elections. International community, international community. You see all that interference America was out here doing? What the fuck is they interfering with these people's politics like this for? America don't run, the Sierra Leoneans don't run to America and try to break up the Democrats and Republicans. That's not our role. That's not their job. Eventually, they got to choose a side. Eventually, they got to choose a side because they got in our business. So this is what's been happening, bro.
Yeah, it's deep, man.
The only way we can get free in this country and anywhere else in Africa is through Pan-Africanism. At this point, we're on the eve of 2025. It is truly Pan-Africanism or perish. We're either going to get to understand what Pan-Africanism is and politically take on that ideology and say, man, listen, I ain't with the party system. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I want us to build on our African identity and on our African interests. Forget about that tribal shit. This shit global. If you ain't at that level, bro, in 2025, I don't give a fuck where you come from, you slipping. You slipping. Exactly. Exactly, bro. You say, who's responsible for providing a political education to the civilians? Who's responsible to make sure the people, the ordinary people of the nation, know the political history and the political nature of their government? The laws, the rules, how it functions, who's who and what's what. Who's responsible for that civic education? See, there's never been a civil rights movement in Sierra Leone. They need one. They need to understand what their rules, what their rights are, and what the laws are, instead of following fucking propaganda on WhatsApp. It's nasty work.